Perfect. Thanks so much, Pradeep, and thank you so much to the BAS team for inviting Quadient AR to participate in this year's BAS Connect. I'm really happy to share with you all a little bit about what our solution does specifically to solve for pain points around accounts receivables processes, specifically communications, reconciliation, and just general manual flows that an organization might be using today in their Sage environment and how they can be improved and generally improve your overall cash flow in today's session. So if there are any questions, like Pradeep said, please feel free to ask them. I'll be moving a little bit more quickly through this presentation just because we are limited on time. It is a 25-minute session, so if I don't get to your question, please know that I will reach out to your BAS account manager, and we'll be able to answer that question for you there through them, or you can reach out to myself directly here. So again, my name is Devin Lildar. I am responsible for our Sage practice here at Quadient Accounts Receivables. I have been within the Sage accounting space for over the last decade. I've worked for a number of resellers, different third-party integrated solutions, and as well payments organizations that have supported the Sage community in the past. So I have some deep knowledge around accounts receivables flows, specifically around how you can take payments more efficiently, credit card, ACH questions, EFT questions that you might have. So please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll be happy to have those conversations with you. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I already have Sage, so why do I need more tools, right? And this is just a common question I think that we're running into in the Sage ecosystem, but as well many of the other ERP ecosystems in general overall right now. And the reason is that, well, you know, you really do love that ERP and it might be easy to connect to, but you know, what more can you get out of that? And you know, there's a lot of things to love within your Sage environment. You know, it's user friendly, it has some role-based dashboards, maybe it has some configurable workflows and some detailed reporting functions. In your mind, you might be thinking, well, this does everything in ERP that I could ask for from an ERP, right? But if you think about the accounts receivables process, we like to take it a little bit further, right? So we like to have organizations think a little bit about how you're communicating with your clients, right? So when you do have an invoice going out, are you thinking about, okay, well, now I have to email that individual for follow-ups. Maybe I have to pick up the phone. When I do receive that payment, maybe there's some reconciliation processes in place there. And while Sage does a good job at maintaining your general center of truth for the organization when it comes to your finances, the truth is that you do need additional tools sometimes to really help to support things like your cash flow, right? And so Quadient has some really key pillars to our solution, specifically around cash flow as well as customer experience. Our values are set that we want to make sure that we're supporting organizations to get things like real-time reporting on AR balances, regardless of who it is in the organization. If a CFO needs to jump into that seat and see exactly where cash flow is to make a critical decision, then we can support you in doing that, right? But also, how does that translate into customer experience? When you're communicating to your customers more often or more frequently and with less manual work behind it, right? You're able to actually hit those customers in a way that takes less work onto the individual, but then it also supports that customer in knowing that you're keeping on top of your day-to-day. And when they have questions, those questions can then be filtered through finance directly without having to really involve other parties within the organization. So it really does help to support that customer experience. But then what we've noticed with our organizations that use YayPay, Quadient AR, is that the solution itself helps to boost the amount of cash flow that you bring through the door. Okay, so we'll be covering some of that on today's conversation. And so it will take way less effort than you might expect. So bear with me here as I switch screens and I'll dive right into the solution demo for you all today. So you should be able to see my dashboard. This is the YayPay Quadient AR dashboard. So what you're looking at is just a general view of what your day-to-day invoicing flows might look like, right? You have this nice visual banner up at the top that shows you where everything is from the start of the invoicing cycle all the way to the end of it. So how many invoices do we have current? What's overdue? If you as an organization allow promise to pays from your customers, you can even have that as an option, and your customers can log promise to pays, and those will be tracked here as well. Pending, what that means is maybe one of your customers has made a payment against an invoice, but those funds haven't hit your bank account yet, so they're sitting here in pending. And then you have your paid invoices. So you can see, right, we can change date ranges here, but this is our general view over the last 30 days of what our invoice lifecycle looks like. As we scroll down, what you'll notice is a few KPIs. So things like DSO, day sales outstanding. We always want that trending downwards, right? We want to make sure that our customers are paying us as quickly as possible, right? And so for most organizations that we work with, we tend to get that day sales outstanding rate down to below 30 days, right? So very quick, meaning that your customers are more in tune with jumping into the driver's seat and then making those payments, viewing those invoices and making those payments on their own. You can see cash collected week over week, and we show some trends here associated with that, so you can see what that difference would look like. Open invoices, again, you can see what that difference looks like week over week. Reminders, so this allows for the accounts receivables rep or anyone within the organization who needs to have access to the system to, again, jump into the driver's seat here and make some decisions. So if we notice that, let's say, Reardon Steel, they're not paying their invoices in a timely manner, and we want to set some reminders, some automatic reminders for our accounts receivables reps to jump into the driver's seat to give them a call to just see how things are going. We can do that, right? And so we can track exactly what those reminders look like right here. Accounts requiring calls. So these might be organizations that are extremely delinquent on their invoices, and maybe they require a call. Or maybe their billing contact has changed and you're not able to get through to them, right? So it puts the entire organization's financials really into one single place so that we can make some actionable decisions as we move along through our day-to-day. As we scroll down, what you'll notice here is our top 10 payers. So of course, this is a demo environment, so I only have 10 payers, but what you would notice if you had more than 10 is that you could actually scroll through these. This entire environment is built on AI and machine learning. We've been around for many years now, and so we've really honed in on our AI and machine learning experience, and we are actually the industry leader when it comes to cash flow projection. So we can actually predict cash flow by about 94% accuracy. Okay, so all of this information that you're viewing here is the customer scorecarding, and that's extremely accurate. So you can see that Reardon Steel, they have an A+ rating. So maybe they're really great at paying their invoices, but they're trending downwards, right? So maybe they missed a payment on an invoice. Or we can look at Stark Industries. We can notice right off the bat, they're not really great at paying their invoices. So maybe that means that we have to communicate with them a little bit differently to make sure that they're paying those invoices on time. And we can deep dive into each one of these accounts if we want to, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit after I'm finished going through these dashboards. What you'll notice here are some other great charts. Again, this is more than just a collections tool, more than just a accounts receivables management tool, but it's also a communications tool. So any communication that goes out, be those invoice reminders, any sort of emails that might go out. We have organizations using this tool to send out happy Thanksgiving, happy birthdays to individuals, right? Or happy New Year type emails. So all of those things can be done. But what this does is it is embedding a pixel into those emails so that we can actually track and understand who's opening those emails, what emails have failed to hit those organizations. So then when we're looking at this, maybe we deep dive into those failed invoices and we can say, okay, Stark Industries, they didn't get my email because their billing contact has changed. So we need to go back and we need to reach out to them, right? Or we can see who's viewed those invoices, and then maybe through that, we understand who's viewed them, but maybe they haven't paid them, right? And so maybe we require another call out or something like that. So it just helps to support you in bringing together your day-to-day a little bit. As we scroll down, you'll notice two more graphs here, cash collected over time. This is for the last 30 days. So what you'll notice is current versus what's expected, what has been paid over the last 0 to 90 days versus what is current. You'll notice the same thing as you scroll through this. And then as you go down, you'll notice on-time payment projection. So this is actually doing kind of a similar thing to this graph, but then projecting it out for the next 30 days, or we can view for the next 7 days, the next 14 days, and we can really understand if we jump into this, what's projected to be unpaid, what's projected to be paid, and what is promised to pay. So what you might be curious about is how are we getting to this accuracy, and how are we able to understand exactly when something might come through the door? Because our machine learning is set up in a way that we're actually viewing and understanding exactly when a client has paid their invoices in the past, but then also we have a tool that connects into credit bureaus so that we can understand, okay, Dun & Bradstreet is saying this about our customer, Credit Safe is saying this about our customer, and so it's informed, right? We're informing ourselves a little bit more about who our customers are and how they are likely to pay. So it's determining those trends for you, and it's projecting when those payments are going to come through the door with extreme accuracy here. So even if you wanted to jump into the 7-day, you'll notice that on Friday we have $98,000 that is projected to be unpaid, right? And so that's quite a bit of money. Maybe we want to reach out to that customer if we need some funds coming through the door. And this chart down here at the bottom is one that most individuals, when I'm going through this demo, they're like, why is this one all the way down at the bottom? Because this shows you exactly what invoices have not been paid, right? So what invoices haven't been paid without a promise to pay. So we can see here that Burns Industries, this invoice here for £151,000, it's only 1 day overdue, but it's likely, based on their past paying history, to not be paid till 31 to 60 days past due. The same with this invoice, right? It's only 1 day past due, but we're projecting it not to be paid till 90 days past due. So it allows you as an organization to really drill into where those funds are coming from, how likely are those funds to come through the door, and then how we action on our follow-ups to make sure those funds are coming through the door in a timely manner. Now, I keep mentioning that this is more than just a collections tool. It is a communications tool as well. So I'm going to jump into our workflows just to show you what that looks like. So you can have a number of workflows set up for any sort of scenarios, right? So if I'm sitting here in Toronto, Canada, you might be sitting in the US, or maybe you have an organization that your organization that has multiple locations, maybe in Canada or the US or abroad, even Western Europe or elsewhere. We can support all of those needs, right? And maybe we're communicating to those customers in those different locations in different ways, right? And so maybe we want to communicate with our Canadians a little bit nicer, or maybe we want to send our American counterparts Happy Thanksgiving, right? And so we can scroll through this and we can see how many different workflows we can set up. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to have to sit there and set up all of these workflows. It's not very difficult. We have a team there that is able to really jump into the driver's seat at the time of onboarding to set up whatever workflows it is that you need, and then train you around how to create them. So we'll jump into a white glove workflow, right? Maybe this is a standard workflow we set up for those customers that really like to pay us well, right? And so we can see that there are standard rules. These rules mean that when a customer hits that certain criteria, they're automatically dropped into this workflow, right? So if a customer hits that A or B rating, maybe we're dropping them directly into this workflow. Or conversely, if a customer is not a great payer, maybe we have a high touch workflow, right? And so we drop customers that are sitting at that D rating into that high touch workflow automatically when they hit that rating, so that we're communicating a little bit better to them. If we jump into our timeline, we can understand what that communication level looks like. So we can scroll through and we can see we have emails set up. We can see that the email is being sent 7 days before the due date, right? And this is all configurable. You can attach things like our invoices. We can even attach supplemental business documents, be those tax documents, anything that an organization might need to see as you're working with them. And once the invoice becomes overdue, then we're sending them another email 15 days past the due date. Maybe then we're calling out to that individual. Now you might be wondering, what do those emails look like? So if I jump into this first email, you can see exactly what that email looks like. So you can see we appreciate your business, but it's also pulling in some really key points from your Sage environment, things like invoice due date, invoice balance. If there is a multi-currency component, we can handle that. Who their AR specialist might be and what their contact information is so that they can reach out. And if they want to see a statement on account, they can click on a link that's already embedded and generated on the back end for them. You can see things like billing contact name are entered. So it's really taking out the legwork for having to type out all of those templates or having to configure a template down the line. These things are being sent out automatically. And so it's taking out a lot of that legwork for the organization as a whole. As we scroll down, we can see that we can actually go all the way down to delinquency, right? And so what does that mean? Well, Quadient is actually also one of the largest mail centers in North America. And so what that means is that we can actually send out physical mail, right? So if we really want to send out legal notices or dunning notices to organizations, once they become delinquent, we can, and we can track all of that mail as well directly through the system. So it's really cool. It's really configurable for an accounts receivables tool. If we go back, you can set up things like global rules. Global rules are things like, well, if I notice that all of my customers' credit cards are coming due, right? So if we want to touch base with all customers, regardless of what workflow they're sitting in, at the time that their credit cards are expiring, we can actually set up specific emails for those needs, right? And so those are rules that are generally specified to all of your clients. If we go into email templates, we can actually see how those emails are generated, right? So we're speaking to those emails that were embedded in those workflows. We can have different emails for different reasons, monthly statements, for example. And if you don't want to sit here and type out all of these emails, we actually have AI built into these emails so that if you can just enter in that subject line, hit generate template, and the system itself will generate an AI template for an email. Of course, you're probably going to want to just go through that really quickly to make sure everything is accurate, that you're communicating correctly to your clients or your customers. But it does take away a lot of that legwork for you as an organization. And the same can be done for, again, mail templates. Now I'm going to switch back really quickly to our dashboards, but you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen here, we have a number of modules. We have things like disputes. We have different things like disputes. We have things like to-dos, right? I don't have enough time to go through all of this with you all today. So if you have any specific needs or you're thinking, hey, can this system do this? Can it help me to do this? Reach out to your BAS rep, reach out to myself, and we'll be happy to jump into it with you on a one-on-one demo. But really quickly, I'm going to jump into, let's jump into Stark Industries here. They probably have a lot of invoices that they haven't paid. So we're here in Stark Industries. This is what the view looks like for an AR rep, somebody who's going in from the organization to look at what's going on with Stark Industries. I like to think of this as a CRM for all of our finance information. Today, we have a lot of organizations that are approaching us where they don't have an AR resource. Those resources are becoming a little bit harder to find these days because a lot of those individuals, unfortunately, are aging out of the workforce, or maybe they're becoming more expensive, right? And so this really helps you if you have a lot of turnover within the organization. If somebody is looking to retire, right? How can you keep all of that information in check and give your business some continuity as to what is going to happen in the future? Right, so we can see any of these open invoices. We notice some of those familiar banners here so that we have an understanding of what that invoice lifecycle looks like. We can see any billing contacts associated with that customer. We can go in, we can attach documents here so that that customer can view them on their own. If that customer is on the phone with us and they want to make a payment on account, or we have an auto pay that we need to set up. We work with a lot of SaaS type companies, so organizations that do a lot of subscription billing. All of that can be set up here as well. And as we scroll down, we can actually see all of the activity associated with this specific customer, right? We can see any emails that have gone out, any pieces of mail that might have gone out. We can even log calls directly here, put notes on account, manage any disputes directly here, go through any to-dos, view any payment activity or any change logs, right? We can also do the same up here. We can see any closed invoices, open invoices, any payments that have been made, as well as any adjustments on invoices. So it provides some really great detail to anyone who needs to jump into that driver's seat to go in and jump into that driver's seat. Now you might be thinking, what does this look like for our customers? So if we take this statement link, Now, a link would be embedded directly onto any communication sent out to your clients so that they can jump into it. But just for ease of this demo, I'm just going to jump into it this way. And so we can see here, we have that nice BAS logo. This logo can be changed for whatever your logo is so that your customers feel as if they're interacting with your organization. We have all of our information here, as well as all of the customer billing contact information. So now the customer is able to jump into this seat and they're able to see, okay, we have a number of invoices here that, that we haven't paid yet. So let's click on this one specifically, and maybe we want to pay. We can pay it by credit card, ACH or EFT in Canada, and we can click pay, right? If we want to pay multiple invoices, that's also possible. So we can click on multiple and then also make that payment. You can notice the credit card here, we can click pay, right? So let's just pay one of these. And let's show you what that looks like. So we'll click credit card, click pay. Now this is taking you into kind of a similar feel as a general shopping cart, right? So you're out here, it's kind of bringing that customer experience that you might recognize from Amazon or Walmart. You know, when you're placing orders online yourself, how are you able to pay, right? It's very similar in that sense. So we can enter our billing information here. We can click continue. If we want to save a credit card on file, that's possible. All of this information is encrypted on the back end. So right now we have a dummy card in here, so it's exposed, but for all intents and purposes, the only thing one of your clients would be able to see is a number of stars and the last 4 digits of the card if it was held within the system. And everything is 100% PCI compliant. We have a number of ISO ratings behind us as well, so you can be confident that all of this information is being held securely. We can then click submit payment. Don't want to save that card. And here we have a receipt, right? We can see that we've paid that invoice. We can print that receipt for our records if we want to. And your organization will also get a copy of this so that you always have record, and it provides a nice audit trail. We can go into, oh, this has been happening lately, but we refresh this page. Generally what you would notice is a little green icon here with some money that would rain down and say Stark Industries paid this amount, right? And so what this is doing is that it's actually speaking back to Sage, and so it's automatically, when that payment is made, it's reconciling back into the Sage environment, letting Sage know, hey, we don't have an outstanding invoice anymore, and there's no need to do any manual reconciliation there. Okay, so I'm going to quickly jump back to my PowerPoint. Again, I'm hitting up on time, so please feel free to jump in with any questions. If you would like some information on things like pricing, what does implementation look like? How can workflows be configured, or anything in between, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or your BAS rep, and we'll be happy to have a conversation. But I hope that this session was informative to everyone, and that you do reach out at least to learn a little bit more about what we do here at Quadient. So thanks again. Let's jump into our chat just to make sure we don't have any questions, or if we do. So we have one here. Our AR team is going through some changes and we can't seem to find a good collections resource. How can this fill the gaps in customer communications? Well, I mean, I think generally this solution fills those gaps quite easily, because it kind of takes away the need for a lot of those email communications to be sent out. Yes, it will kind of hone in on scenarios where you might need someone to pick up the phone, but it's helping you to support the team in general, to mitigate how much time they're focusing on really drilling down into maybe pulling an Excel sheet to see who they need to make calls out to. It's giving them that information really at their fingertips so that they can hone in on those clients that they do need to make phone calls to quickly. And then you can rest assured that all of those emails are being tracked on the back end. You can see who's viewed them. And so all of those communications are handled very well. One thing I will speak to on that is that we actually have done some studies internally with our existing customer base, and we've actually shown to drive up customer satisfaction scores by about 34%. So this communications tool is very powerful, and it does support businesses and organizations to really help to support and bring those customers a little bit closer to you as an organization. Good question. One more, if we don't have the same volume for AR payments across our locations. Is that okay? Does this solution still make sense? So yeah, I will say, we have a number of organizations that maybe they have a smaller business in the US or they have a smaller business here in Canada, right? So we can definitely take a look at it. We never say no to organizations. We'll help you to understand what the ROI looks like, what the solution investment looks like in general. And oftentimes we're coming in at a much lower cost than most organizations would expect. And we can actually save you money. And we've had organizations that have adopted this solution to the point where they've actually been able to upgrade or pay for an upgrade to their Sage system or make a transition to a different system if they need to. So it can show some really good value as you look to adopt the solution. Okay, that's all the questions I see here in the chat. Good question again. If there's anything else that anyone else has, please don't hesitate to type it in. And if you're watching this back in a recorded demo, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the VAST team for some additional detail.